What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Times.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So, welcome to another week of the podcast. Today's episode is the discussion. So, if you have not done so already, please go back and listen to Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Definitely check out the last SSSP with Yvonne Rivera. She is the CEO, CISO, and co-founder of CyberMite. So we had a really good conversation. And then we have more conversations coming up in the future. I think this week we might have a gap, but then we'll have a throwback. So we'll have something that kind of coincides with this week's theme. So definitely tune in for that. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. So without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. This article is from NBCnews.com, right? It's written by Kevin Collier. Title of this one: Chinese hackers spent 5 years waiting in U.S. infrastructure, ready to attack, agencies say, right? So this report is something that didn't surprise me. When I saw the article, I was like, okay, yeah, I know this happens, right? Like, this is espionage, this is spy stuff, right? You implant somebody, you have them wait, right? We've seen the movies where you have your salts, right? Like, it's a Russian, Russian agent just sits there doing whatever in a government agency. But in this case, it's for infrastructure, right? Because again, we've talked about it even this week, right? What's going to happen? Like, the first thing that's going to happen is going to be infrastructure, right? They're going to go after infrastructure, but they're saying that they have Chinese hackers are spending 5 years in the U.S. At these infrastructure locations, right? So they're getting past the background checks, whether that needs to be something that changes, right? So you got your background checks. You got for 5 years. I mean, you can kind of take your time in doing whatever you need to do, right? You're sitting there gathering information. You could be in on the team that does the upgrading, right? Like, when it comes to all these different reports we see about things that happen when it comes to cybersecurity events for water plants and food manufacturers and your gas and your oil. I mean, they could be in on the ground up doing the securing of these things, so they have the real insight, right? So if you're doing the securing of the system, you have the keys to the kingdom. You're more than likely an administrator that's out there making things happen. But that's what they talk about is U.S. officials, like, they've been issuing warnings saying, hey, there's hackers that are working for China's intelligence services and they're getting access to U.S. infrastructure. So we've seen it before where sometimes they just lay dormant, right? Like, it comes out that an attack happens and then they find out the breach was, months before, you know what I mean? So what needs to change here, right? Like, is it more of a background check or better background checks to make sure these different things don't happen, right? Like, I'm not going to say we go the route of, oh, you assume someone that's a different nationality is automatically a spy, right? Because that's a bridge too far, right? But maybe there should be more caution taken in how we do things, how we're hiring, who we're hiring, because with a lot of resumes, I mean, they tell people, you can only go back, you should only go back like 10 years or something like that. Like, that's easily falsified, right? But I know when I was in the military, I mean, they would ask for, a certain amount of years back, right? And then that was kind of it. But if you're working in the realm of public infrastructure like this, like, maybe there should be more, especially with some of the initiatives that are going forward, there should be more stringency, you know what I mean, when it comes to hiring these people and taking better care of what cybersecurity measures are in place for these things, right? So but again, some of these are in-person people, some of these are hackers, right? And they just don't know they've been hacked, you know what I mean? So we got to take better care of these types of things. And I've said it before, COVID kind of made it to where these were prime targets, right? Which is why we had the article where the current administration is like, hey, critical infrastructure, we got to make sure we're doing a better job of protecting it. And these are things that are going to be put in place. So we just need to come up with better measures for protection with detection, right? Because some of this stuff is not in person, with people being hired on. It's just hackers that are, just biding their time. They're sitting there, they're waiting, you know what I mean, for the perfect time for them to do what they need to do. But Yeah, so the FBI director has Chris Wray is his name, has been talking about this as well, right? So China's hackers, he says China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real world harm to American citizens and communities if or when China decides the time has come to strike. So we know it's a thing. We know it's a thing that's happening, right? Like we know we go back and forth with China. Like I have mentioned before in previous articles, we talk about intellectual property theft. We talk about them going after infrastructure, right? Sometimes they just test the waters a little bit, right, to see what they can do, and they're caught, right, and then they come out, they deny. You know what I'm saying? But we just got to do a better job. Is what it comes down to, and I feel like I say that all the time, right? That's kind of how I should end every every article we talk about is we got to do a better job, right? Because we wouldn't be talking about it if we did. You know what I mean? But what's your thoughts on this, Ryan?
Yeah, definitely for those who are tuned in, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share us with your nerdy friends. Um, hey, China put the P in persistent, right? So when it comes to advanced persistent threats, 5 years is a long time to be laying in wait. And it comes down to, we talked about in the past, like the tensions with Taiwan, right? They believe Taiwan belongs to them, and they're tired of the West meddling. So how better to strike than a cyber attack before you send a boat or a plane over there? But also when it comes to wreaking havoc on the U.S., um, we are many things, right, in the States, but we're formidable. We have the ability to project power, things of that nature. Um, but we have amassed the most weapons on the planet when it comes to our civilians. You can't just directly strike America. So for an attack to take place or to disrupt us, things of that nature, you have to the critical infrastructure is key. They have to take us out from the inside. They can't come from our shores and attack us. So like their strategy is sound, which is very scary. That yeah, you attack water, you attack power, you attack our ability to communicate. You shut us down, basically, the big reboot, and then you're able to do something to us. Um, so again, we talk about it all week, like with the different articles. Like you have to make sure, like we have to make sure we protect our critical infrastructure. We have to make sure our citizens are able to communicate with each other. Because like that the movie that I was talking to you about, Leave the World Behind, that was the whole premise. Like you have to shut us down basically from the inside out, and then we'll take care of ourselves. Like we will destroy ourselves through civil unrest because you cannot just fly a plane over here and attack the states. Like we're not going for that. We're too technologically advanced. We and our censorship, it's too weaponized, right? Like, everybody over here is strapped. So landing the plane over here would not be a good idea on your part. But however, if you take our ability to not be able to have access to clean running water, to not have power, to not have the ability to communicate with each other, to say, hey, there's something that's wrong, like to shut down our internet, shut down our banks, shut down all those things, that would tear us apart fairly quickly. Like if you were to take away our banking systems and things of that nature, I don't give us much time for very long. You're bartering with napkins like the Book of Eli. So it's a sound strategy, and I'm sure the West is doing the same thing to other nations where we're in their systems and we're making sure that we understand the critical infrastructure in order to wreak havoc. So I mean, it's par for the course. However, we have enough money and enough talent over here to make sure that we don't allow someone to lay uh unabated for 5 years. Like we got to do better. Like that's it's good that we found it, right? It didn't become a decade-long problem. It didn't shut down a major critical infrastructure of some sort. However, that is very scary.
Do you ever sit and think what the Chinese Ryan and Shannon are talking about in their podcast, right? Like, how
I've
does
never thought about
yeah,
it.
how does this change from their point of view, right? Like, I can
Right.
only imagine, right? Or the North Korean Ryan and Shannon, you know what I mean? Like, it's just I don't know, man. Like, This is something, and again, I mentioned it before. Like there are reports out there from generals that are just like, hey, we believe China will be making like a real all out war effort, in the very near future, right? Yeah, I've seen 2025, I've seen 2027. Um, and it just goes to show that, right? Like they're just lying in wait, biding their time, right? To be like, hey, this is when it's gonna happen. This is when D-Day is, right? Because that's all the D stands for, right? Is that
Right.
certain moment in time. It's not destruction day or anything like that. Like that is the day. But yeah, they found it. You're right. It's a good thing it wasn't going on for a decade before we found it, because then it could have been so much more lost, right? But
Right.
uh I
And it
think we're
wasn't,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say it wasn't to collect intel. That's the even scarier part. Like they said that like, literally they were just uh sourcing out like our critical infrastructure. Like they weren't trying to collect like uh private information. They weren't trying to blackmail people. Like they were just like, how do we shut down this dam or whatever?
No, it's how it's gonna happen, right? Like they may not need to fire one single bomber bullet, right? Like the way our society is going now, they'll just be like, hey, go ahead and take away their hot dogs, right? Around the 4th of July and see what happens. Like they'll
Fist
lose it.
fights.
They'll lose it. Like they will tear themselves apart. Yeah, for sure. It'll be like
Man.
it'll be like the tone that played in Kingsman, like when they were in the church, like he played,
Oh yeah,
they just start going after each
yeah.
other. Like people will be at cookouts, just yeah, we couldn't get any hot dogs from the store. But like, what? All of a sudden, free birds playing in the background, everybody's beating each other. Free bird.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. Like, because you would think that there's a mutual assured destruction, right? Like, if the U.S. were to go down, or just any of the West, who's buying your products, right? Like, you're a major manufacturer of stuff. That's what China does. But then you think about it, like, well, if they become the number one power, I mean, then the dynamics change. So then we're building their products. Like, it would take time, but it's there's always that bid for who's number one, and like they're coming for it. So it's pretty scary.
We don't necessarily have to build anything for them. We could just be that geographically located outpost for them, right? That could be the way they attack whatever country they're having issues with, right? Like, oh, we got America over here, they can take care of Mexico.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest, that's what we do, right? Like, we make deals with other countries to be like, hey, let us put some missiles here or set something here. You know what I mean? So that we have a strategic placement, of
Right.
arms. They could do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, true. So we'll see what the future holds. Hopefully, we don't find more of this, unless it does exist, right? Hopefully, we do find more of this, but hopefully, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say, like, hopefully, it doesn't exist. But if it does, if we, your Iran's, your North Korea's, your Russia's, uh, also have a foothold within our infrastructure. Hopefully, we also discover that and get rid of it. And then, yeah, like you said, like there's a there's a version of us in a different country. Like, the U.S. is in our critical infrastructure. They've been there for 5 years. But yeah, like again, you want to be on the winning team. So hopefully, we are doing what needs to be done and getting smarter about these threats and protecting our allies as well. Because I'm sure your Taiwans and things of that nature, like those countries are, they're like, that belongs to us. They're doing the same thing over there, right? They're ready to shut them down before they roll one tank or fly one plane overhead. So definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. Again, Monday, Tuesday are topics with a discussion. We kind of went down the rabbit hole in this one. Definitely tune in for more of this. Thursdays, Ask Us SP, or this week, probably a throwback. That's within theme. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, TV shows, all that good stuff, non-cybersecurity related. So hit us up on the websites that go by our name. Give me a personally. I'm at RYY Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and Threads. Stay safe. Stay secure.